Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare हरे नाम संकीर्तन की, हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की। प्रभु 18 होगा ना। Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 2, text number 18. नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवते उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिके नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवते उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिके नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिके. The devotees on the side. नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवते उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी. नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवते उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिके. नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवते उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी. Word to word meaning, translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Nashta, destroyed. Prayesu, almost to nil. Abhadreshu, all that is inauspicious. Nityam, regularly. Bhagavata, Srimad Bhagavatam, or the pure devotee. Sevaya, by serving. Bhagavati, unto the personality of Godhead. Uttama, transcendental. Sloke, prayers. Bhakti, loving service. Bhavati, comes into being. Naisthiki, irrevocable. By regular attendance in the classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Here is the remedy for eliminating all inauspicious things within the heart, which are considered to be obstacles in the path of self-realization. The remedy is the association of the Bhagavatas. There are two types of Bhagavatas, namely the book Bhagavat and the devotee Bhagavat. Both the Bhagavatas are competent remedies, and both of them, or either of them, can be good enough to eliminate the obstacles. A devotee Bhagavat is as good as the book Bhagavat because the devotee Bhagavat leads his life in terms of the book Bhagavat, and the book Bhagavat is full of information about the personality of Godhead and his pure devotees, who are also Bhagavatas. Bhagavat book and person are identical. The devotee Bhagavat is a direct representative of Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. So, by pleasing the devotee Bhagavat, one can receive the benefit of the book Bhagavat. Human reason fails to understand how by serving the devotee Bhagavat or the book Bhagavat one gets gradual promotion on the path of devotion. But actually, these are facts explained by Srila Narada Deva, who happened to be a maidservant's son in his previous life. The maidservant was engaged in the menial service of the sages, and thus he also came into contact with them, and simply by associating with them and accepting the remnants of foodstuff left by the sages, the son of the maidservant got the chance to become the great devotee and personality Srila Narada Deva. These are the miraculous effects of the association of Bhagavatas, and to understand these effects practically, it should be noted that by such sincere association of the Bhagavatas, one is sure to receive transcendental knowledge very easily, with the result that he becomes fixed in devotional service of the Lord. The more progress is made in devotional service under the guidance of the Bhagavatas, the more one becomes fixed in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The messages of the book Bhagavat, therefore, have to be received from the devotee Bhagavat. And the combination of these two Bhagavatas will help the neophyte devotee to make progress on and on. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम् वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादे पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नाम्ने गौरतसे नमः हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गे राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये नीलाचलनिवासाय नित्याय परमात्मने बलभद्रा सुभद्राभ्यां जगन्नाथाय ते नमः वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्णा कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna. Welcome to the morning Srimad Bhagavatam session. I seek the blessings of all the Vaishnava devotees assembled so that I can render this service for self purification. So, this is the series of verses where we will find how step by step the spiritual progress has been explained by Suta Goswami to the sages of Nami Saranya. In the previous verses, we heard Sushusho Shraddha Dhanasya Vasudeva Katharuchi Syan Mahat Sevaya Vipra, like that. So, taste for the even before those slokas, we had heard that if someone, after doing the activities of Varnashram Dharma, not developing the taste for Hari Katha, then his activities are Srama Eva hi Kevala. So, if someone is not developing taste for Hari Katha, then how should we develop taste for Hari Katha? So that verse said that Syan Mahat Sevaya Vipra. When someone serves the devotees, he develops the taste for holiness. So service to the Vaishnavas gives realization of the topics that we may hear or read during our course of sadhana. When that is missing, it just remains theoretical. And in the continuation of that, these verses will glorify the 9 stages of bhakti. Actually, in these verses, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Jiva Goswami has given their commentaries, and Prabhupada also brings them in the purports. So Jiva Goswami describes the 9 stages of bhakti through these slokas, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives 14 stages, but more or less they have similarity. In this verse, we find 2 stages of bhakti that we know. What are the stages of bhakti? According 9 stages. Ado Shraddha, Tato Sadhu Sangha, Tato Bhajan Kriya, Tato Anartha Nivritti, then Nishtha, Ruchi, Asakti, Bhava, Prema. So Nishtha. So this verse speaks about Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. And in the beginning, Nashta Prayasu Abhadresu. So both from Anartha Nivritti to Nishtha, this verse highlights this Nashta Prayasu Abhadresu. And Prabhupada gives wonderful word-to-word meaning, and word-to-word meanings are also very important in Srimad Bhagavatam. Many times Prabhupada's word-to-word meanings are also like translation. So we should, in our course of reading, try not to skip them, thinking that we have to cover the Bhagavatam fast. Because we may miss few things which may not be there in the purport or translation also. Like one of the verses in 7th canto, Prahlad Maharaj is praying to Narsingadev that I don't want anything for me, but I'm afraid of my senses. And he gives the example. In the sloka, the example Prahlad Maharaj gives is that a person whose mind and senses are not controlled, it's like that of a situation of a person who has many wives, and all the wives are simultaneously pulling him in different directions. And like that, that person is always disturbed. So that is what Prahlad Maharaj speaks. But in the word-to-word meaning, Prabhupada writes, Prahlad Maharaj is telling that modern times we are distracted by so many things like such as cinema, radio and all these things. So cinema, radio, Prahlad Maharaj doesn't speak. So therefore word-to-word meanings are also very beautiful, and this is the glory of devotee Bhagavat as we read in this purport. So Prabhupada writes here that Nashta Prayasva, one by one Prabhupada explains all the slokas here, all the lines in the sloka. So Nashta Prayasu Abhadresu. First of all, in the translation we find Prabhupada is telling that almost completely destroyed. So Prayasu Abhadresu means Nashta Prayasu means almost completely destroyed. Destroyed, what get destroyed? Abhadresu. So the inauspicious things in the heart. So first of all, we are very aware that what are the inauspicious things in our heart, and we are becoming more aware of it as time is passing. In the previous sloka, Srinotam Swakatha Krishna, Prabhupada told that one of the biggest obstacle in the path of bhakti is one's improper dealing with wealth and women. Not wealth and women, improper dealing with wealth and women. That becomes one of the greatest trouble. And Srimad Bhagavad Gita and many other scriptures, they are telling lust, anger, greed, pride, envy, illusion, the 6 anarthas, and their combination. Like in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Mahaprabhu says, Nisiddhachar, Khutinati, Jivhimsa, Puja, La Pratishtha. So more or less, these are the various ways the abhadra arise in the heart of the sadhaka, and these things get almost completely destroyed. That means there is still some chance of their existence. uh, till what point? Till nishtha. So in our nishtha camp that we had back in 2015, the seniors presented very nice sessions. They were explaining the 9 stages of bhakti. So till anartha nivritti, the practice is like climbing a steep mountain. And when the anarthas are almost completely destroyed, that means automatically the nishtha stage is there. and that is like from there bhakti doesn't fall. Once one's faith has become very strong, although heart is not 100% pure, it may be 75%, 80%, 90%. And we see in the case of Bharat Maharaj that he fell from the eighth stage of bhakti. What is the eighth stage of bhakti? The bhava. The bhava stage is something we can only speculate what it could be, and we have read, but it's very difficult to experience. But Bharat Maharaj was experiencing that, and he fell from that bhava stage. So there we find the contribution of Srila Prabhupada, how he reveals the cause of that fall. That is lack of devotee Bhagavat. And that's what we find in this purport. That the book Bhagavat and the devotee Bhagavat complete the process. And they are identical. Both can be good enough, but the combination is best. Hmm. In fact, Srila Prabhupada establishes the point at the end of the purport that he writes, therefore, the message of the book Bhagavat has to be received from the devotee Bhagavat. And the combination of these two Bhagavat is the last line of the book. The messages of the book Bhagavat therefore have to be received from the devotee Bhagavat. And so it's this line only is clearly clearing the fact that without devotee association, having a library full of books is not going to help. Uh, During the course of reading Bhagavad Gita introduction, so few technical things I came to know about, like the concept of sambandha, avidheya, prayojan in little more detail, and also the four defects, the three ways of gaining knowledge. What are the pratyaksha, anumana, and shabda? So all of them, ultimately glorify or establish the importance of a devotee. When we hear the message of scriptures from a devotee, that is the most perfect way to get realization and move on. Like Rupa says, that the combination of these two Bhagavatas will help the neophyte devotee to make progress on and on. In Bhagavad Gita, we find Krishna speaks four types of neophyte devotees who approach him. Gyan, Artho, Artharthi, Jigyasu, Gyani. Artho means one who is in distressed condition, and Artharthi means someone who is only interested in acquiring material wealth. Jigyasu means inquisitive, and fourth one is Gyani, and Prabhupada translates their Gyani as one who is seeking the absolute truth. And all these four in the purport Prabhupada says these are the four neophyte devotees. In the next sloka, Krishna says, among these four neophyte devotees, Gyani is the best. Tasmat Gyani Uttama, I am not remembering exact words. Gyani Uttama, like that he says. And also he accepts that all the four he accepts. Udaraha eves sarve, like that. All these four are magnanimous. Udar, Krishna identifies even the neophyte devotees as Udar because at least they are coming to Krishna. And then he says, but among them, the Gyani is best. And in the purport, Prabhupada writes, why is it so? Because the Gyani is more seriously inquisitive. The inquisitive person and a Gyani, the difference is Gyani is serious. Like in the previous slokas, one of the sloka was that one should be seriously inquisitive. So that defines the difference between just a ordinary Gyani or inquisitive person and a seriously inquisitive person. So he is not a person who is looking for just few answers. He is a seeker. Seeker means he is not going to settle down unless he is satisfied in his heart. And a Gyani has the chance to go further. Bahunam janmanam ante jnanvan mam prapadyate. Vasudeva Sarvamiti Sa Mahatma Sudurlava. So Gyani, by the association of devotee, basically realizes Vasudeva Sarvamiti Sam, and he becomes another Durlabha Mahatma. So it is the devotee association which is time and again in the path of bhakti glorified. The importance of association of devotees. And I have heard one past time when some disciple of Srila Prabhupada, maybe Jayanand Prabhu or someone, who asked Jayadvaita Maharaj or Jayanand Prabhu that Srila Prabhupada, which is more important, book Bhagavat or devotee Bhagavat? And Prabhupada said it is both are important, but The devotee Bhagavat can catch you when you go wrong. That may not happen with the book Bhagavat alone. One may still become cheated by one's mind and senses in the absence of a devotee Bhagavat. In the journey to Mayapur recently, I was going for the yatra that I tried to make for my grandmother. I was alone in the train journey, and most of the times when I travel alone, this is probably the second time I have gone to Mayapur in last 10 years alone. And this time I was chanting, so for a moment I realized why it is said don't travel alone. So in one of the station, I saw a sight, and by Krishna's grace, I could drag my mind back to the philosophy. There was a beautiful young woman in the platform. Immediately I thought, what is happening now? There is no devotee around me, and eyes are. And then I saw an old lady beside her, and I saw a dog below both of them. Then the philosophy kicked in. Just see, this young lady will become, if she survives, like this old lady who is hardly attractive. And if they are not doing bhakti, they may become a dog in the next life. So I remember that time I realized how it is important to have some devotee or philosophy. Basically, philosophy in Hindi or Sanskrit is translated as darshan. Darshan means to see beyond what we see. Generally, when we don't have access to philosophy, we are just seeing the external pratyaksh praman. That is the final thing. Like Buddhism, they don't believe in soul, next life, all these things. They can't see this, they don't believe this. Or modern materialistic science also. Not believing anything beyond what they are seeing. So they are totally hooked by the pratyaksha. I was reading that pratyaksha means one sees something and the brain creates some perception that becomes the knowledge. That's it. No further calculation. So pratyaksh is defective because our perception can be wrong in so many unlimited number of ways. The four defects are there, and they can create unlimited way in which we can go wrong. And then comes the next type of praman is anuman praman. Uh, uh, During reading the introduction of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, some few details I found out about Anuman Praman. These Pramanas, the way of gaining knowledge, they are part of Nyaya Shastra, and they describe them in much more detail. Unfortunately, our superiors have made it very simple for us. And interesting thing is, Prabhupada has implemented all these things in the books that he has written. The introduction of Bhagavad Gita is filled with these concepts. Shabda Praman, Anuman. He is establishing Shabda Praman against Pratyaksha and Anuman in such a way. So Anuman Praman has 5 steps, and this can be explained with the help of an example. So first, let us understand what is Anuman Praman. Anuman Praman means there is a Pratyaksha and there is Apratyaksha. Something that is visible and something that is not visible. So Anuman means to use the visible to predict the invisible. We see what is seen or perceived with any of the senses, and then we conclude about something we are not able to see. For example, if there is smoke from a distance, we see smoke in a mountain. So the first step of Anuman Praman is proposition, or it is in Sanskrit called pratigya. It is the statement which we want to prove. The moment we see the smoke, we will say there is fire in the mountain. Now immediately when we say fire in the mountain, the Anuman Praman has the next step. That is, you have to give the reason. Why do you say there is fire in the mountain? So the person will say the reason. That is called in Sanskrit hetu. So the reason should support the claim. So they will say because why it is fire in the mountain? Because there is smoke visible. So in the second hetu, he speaks the pratyaksha, what he can see. There is smoke in the mountain. Okay, why there should be fire? Because there is smoke. So therefore, third is an example, or in Sanskrit it is called vyapti. And this is the stage there is a chance of mistake. Here we give a principle based on our previous experiences. What is that? That wherever there is smoke, there is fire. Or in other words, wherever there is fire, there is smoke. And it has to be supplemented with an udharan, example. And generally people use the example in that book of logic, it comes Just like in kitchen we see that whenever there is firewood being burned, we find first smoke comes and then obviously fire is there. So smoke implies existence of fire. That is the Udharan, and the Udharan with Vyapti. Vyapti means the logic that I am giving based on my previous experience. Fire means smoke, and Udharan means just like in kitchen. That is the third stage. Fourth is applying this third stage or third step, which we call as the previous knowledge or previously knowledge principle gathered based on the previous experiences, applying that as universal phenomena in current situation. So, because wherever there is fire, there is smoke. In the fourth step, we say in the mountain also there is smoke. Therefore, there has to be and fire. And the conclusion is yes, it has fire. So this is the complicated 5 level steps. So fourth and fifth looks similar. Fourth is applying the universal rule to the mountain. Is there smoke in the mountain? Yes, there is smoke in the mountain. That is the fourth step. Fifth one is conclusion. So based on the third step, the step says yes. Wherever there is smoke, there has to be fire. So there is fire. So these are the 5 steps. In Sanskrit, they call it Pratigya, Hetu, Udharan with Vyapti. Fourth one is Upanaya. Last one is Nigaman. Because the third one, which is called Vyapti, it can be erroneous. Because not always it is necessary there has to be fire with smoke. Sometimes a big dust in the air can arise which may mistake to be smoke. This can be one. So there can be error in the pratyaksha itself, that we may identify a dust cloud to be smoke. This can be wrong. Then not always a smoke can arise or a dust cloud has to be arise because of fire. It can arise even because of cows running, or even let's say someone is telling it is smoke. It may be fire has gone down, only the ashes are there and some animals are going, and the air is filled with the smoke. So therefore, Anuman Praman has defect. And only solution is Shabda Praman. Only a person in the mountain can tell by hai kya wahan pe. And we have no other ways. Now, once he speaks and we believe that, then we can verify it. So this is the difference between Shabda. Shabda means the most authentic, and it applies in all field of knowledge. If someone knows calculus, no matter how much we try, we need to take help from a person who knows calculus. So Shabda Praman is a day-to-day event. Yes, the difference is in spiritual knowledge, the origin of the knowledge is not defective. But in material knowledge, Shabda Praman is not exactly Shabda Praman, because the person who is giving the knowledge actually is inventing the knowledge himself, or the source of the knowledge is something defective. So in this way we realize the importance of Srimad Bhagavatam, of the books or the scriptures that we have in our hand. All these scriptures, they are not man-made, they are uh, given by Lord Krishna himself, and therefore they have the ability to impact in the core of our heart. And especially Srimad Bhagavatam is Amala Puran, and it can also purify the heart from the malas that are inside, abhadras that are inside the heart. And these books are giving us in detail the knowledge of Sambandha, Abhidheya and Prayojan. This is another important thing. So when we read scriptures, they are telling the 3 things. Many times we have heard Sambandha means, what is Sambandha? Relation. So basically there are 3 things we understand from the scriptures about Sambandha. First is the living entity, second is Krishna, and third is material nature. What is soul, what is God, what is material nature, and what is the interrelationship? Relationship between the soul and God, God and nature, soul and nature. And Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam are filled with these discussions. Krishna is giving the knowledge about himself in the Bhagavad Gita. Matta parataram namnyat kinchit asti. So many verses. He's talking verses that tells how he's Bhagwan. He's giving verses that tells how he's Brahman. He's giving verses that tells how he's Paramatma. In the class that His Grace Amrish Maharaj took, I think he spoke this. He was giving many references of when Krishna is giving about Brahmano hi pratisthaham, like that in 14th chapter there is the verses. And then when he's talking directly about himself, Patram Puspam Phalam Tam Yame, so these are Bhagwan aspects. And then Paramatma api Chapyukta in 14th chapter again, I think this verse comes. Bharta Bhokta Maheshwara, Upadrashta Anumantacha Bharta Bhokta Maheshwara, Paramatma Pichapyukta, like that. How he is the witness. So Krishna is revealing about himself. Then the next Sambandha Gyani is the knowledge of the soul. Krishna has given elaborate description about the soul. Na jayate vriyate va kadachin, dehinosmin yatha dehe. So many descriptions about avinashi sutad vidyena sarvam idam tatam, soul and consciousness. And then Krishna speaks much more elaborately about material nature in 13th chapter, 14th chapter, and based on 13, 14, 16, 17, 18th chapter, the modes of material nature. Once Krishna introduces modes of material nature, almost all the description he further gives, they are taking help of the description of the modes of nature. Three types of faith, three types of determination, three types of happiness, three types of worship, three types of sacrifice, three types of work, three types of worker, and all based on the Prakriti. Such detailed analysis Krishna gives. And knowing all these things is basically Sambandha. How the Jiva relates with the Prakriti, how the Jiva relates with God, how God relates with Prakriti. For us, there is difference, Prakriti, Mahamaya, Yogmaya. But for Krishna, all everything is Yogmaya. So it's like the cloud covers us, but it can't cover the sun. Similarly, Maya for us can act like Mahamaya, Yogmaya, depending on our consciousness. Whether we want to serve Krishna or not. So this is the understanding the relation between Jeev and Prakriti, our relationship between Krishna and Prakriti, like that Shwetaswatar Upanishad gives that verse, no? स्वाभाविकी ज्ञान बल क्रिया च परास्य शक्ति विविधा श्रूयते स्वाभाविकी ज्ञान बल क्रिया च परास्य शक्ति विविधा श्रूयते Krishna has multifarious energy. Parasa Shakti Vividha. There are various types of Shaktis that Krishna has, and they are Swabhaviki, and they can be classified as Jnana Shakti, Bala Shakti, Kriya Shakti. To execute anything, we need to have some knowledge. We need to Swabhaviki, Jnana, Bala, Kriya. We also need to have some strength. We need to have knowledge, strength, and the activity. If you don't do the activity, the knowledge and strength, they cannot work alone. So the activity has to be there, bal has to be there, knowledge has to be there for the things to happen. And Krishna doesn't do these things separately. He's swabhaviki. Automatically these things are happening for Krishna because these are happening via his energy. Parasya Shaktir Vividhaya Shriyat. So this is Sambandha. Krishna's interaction with the Prakriti, our interaction with the Prakriti, our relation with the Supreme Lord, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam, Bijam Mam Sarva Bhutanam, like that Krishna, I am the seed giving father. So Krishna explains all these things. In fact, Sambandha Gyan also tells about the Gyan of Avidheya and Prayojan. What basically discriminates between Avidheya and Sambandha Gyan is actually unless someone is applying Sambandha Gyan, it doesn't become Avidheya. Means if I know chanting can take us back to Godhead, if I am not chanting, it doesn't remain Avidheya anymore. It is not a process. Similarly, Prayojan, Prema for Krishna, Krishna Prem, its knowledge is Sambandha, but when one experiences that basically is Prayojan. So unless Sambandha is applied, it is simply dry knowledge. It will not become avidheya. So if while like in the previous sloka, I was feeling like one should the purports of the every line of the previous sloka purport. Prabhupada, I was feeling like it should be read 108 times. Now how Krishna is reciprocally respondent to the sincere devotee. He helps a truthful devotee and someone who is inoffensive and sincere in his sadhana. So all these things were mentioned in the previous verse. Actually, they were all telling about the Abhidheya part. Abhidheya. So all these things basically can be applied like Prabhupada writes in the purport here when someone is taking guidance of a devotee Bhagavat. When devotee Bhagavat is there, otherwise who is going to know how we are going to know that we are in the right track or not? Importance of a coach, we can see in most of the sports, the coach appear very heavy because they are giving instruction. I think I don't know from whom I heard. I think Indian cricket team, the coach told them for 6 months they cannot basically have any type of sexual intercourse. They cannot. They have to be actually celibate for 6 months, like that. I don't know which coach said this. In cricket or boxing, I forgot. Probably in boxing, someone said, some boxing coach said that if you have to win the tournament, you have to strictly be obedient, some strict diet rule, timely sleep, and these words of the coach are very harsh. But if it were followed, one can become a very nice fighter or player. So that is the service of devotee Bhagavat. He helps the neophyte to go on by his valuable guidance, and that's what recently I was searching some points and I found a letter. Prabhupada writes, actually the Chaitya Guru in the heart manifests himself as a Siksha Guru and Diksha Guru, instructor and initiator. And there is no difference between them. In one of the places, Prabhupada is telling in the letter, in a conversation, the Siksha Guru becomes the Diksha Guru. The Siksha, where the instruction part, it's a very important part because in Chaitanya Charitamrita also Prabhupada writes this in the purport where Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says Mantra Guru and Siksha Guru, like that he uses the word that the one who gives me mantra, basically Diksha Guru, and the other instructing gurus. And he accepts Rup Goswami and all the six Goswamis as the instructing guru. And Prabhupada gives very wonderful purport, that the importance of instructing spiritual master. One who is giving daily instructions. So, and that's what Prabhupada is writing here. One is by these are the miraculous effects of the association of Bhagavatas. And to understand these effects practically, it should be noted that by such sincere association of the Bhagavatas, one is sure to receive transcendental knowledge very easily. What is the meaning of receiving transcendental knowledge very easily? It will be revealed by the effects of the knowledge, because transcendental knowledge is theoretically available in internet free of cost. But Krishna has labeled it as idam tute guhyatamam, the most confidential. Basically, the thing that makes it confidential is a surrender to the association of devotees. When surrender is not missing, the miracle is missing. Miraculous effects of association. The greatest miracle is this association of devotees. Taking association is basically the miracle. Other things are the byproducts of miracle. Prahlad Maharaj got the association of Narad Muni. That is the main miracle. Appearance of Narsingh Dev is the output. Recently I was sharing that point. It is not miracle that creates faith. It is faith that creates miracle, and faith comes by association. Although, and by faith we get association, and association further strengthens the faith. So this verse establishes very one cannot challenge the importance of association of an instructing personality in our life, and that's what Prabhupada is mentioning here. Nashta prasya bhadreshu nitya. Otherwise, Bhagavad Sevaya could have been just according to the previous verse, Srinvatam Swakatha Krishna. One can hear, but in this verse, it establishes from whom to hear. One should hear from a devotee. One should have a devotee association. And another important thing is Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. This point I forgot to speak. I thought I will speak in the beginning. This verse is speaking about our part that we have to do. We can actually purify our heart almost completely, but not entirely. Entire purification will happen by causeless mercy of Krishna. But almost entirely we can clean by just making one choice, that is regular attendance in the class of devotee and by rendering service to the pure devotee. These two things, if we are doing every day, there is some hope. And uh, this cannot be done artificially. In the previous sloka, Srinatham Sokatham, Prabhupada writes in the purport, truthful and inoffensive. These are the two things that makes one sincere. One has to be truthful and one has to be inoffensive. If someone is duplicitous in taking association or rendering service or attending sessions or Srimad Bhagavatam classes, then the effects may not be experienced, the effects may not be manifest. But but it should be truthful and inoffensive. So the translation holds very true. By regular attendance in the classes of Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is completely destroyed. And Narad Muni is giving his own, Prabhupada is writing the pastime of Narad Muni, mentioning it. And the coming chapters, fourth and fifth chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, in detail we will find Narad Muni is telling about his life, how he actually improved by serving the Bhakti Vedantas who came in the village. In his previous life, how he was the son of a maid servant, such a humble birth. And by there, both things happened there, rendering service and hearing. He attended sessions along with his mother and also rendered service. And these two things created Narad Muni. Just see the power of these two activities. But almost we are doing it so for so many years, but we don't feel this because our heart is still apakva kasai. Like Narad Muni also in his when he will share about his previous life, he will say that although I went to do the tapasya, I followed the instructions of the Bhakti Vedantas, but still I did not become successful in that very life. I had to continue the tapasya till the end of life. So Narada boy actually became Narada old boy. He became old. Similarly, whenever we hear the word Narada boy means we just picture like Dhruv Maharaj, who became successful in 6 months. Narad Muni got the Sambandha, Avidheya, Gyan, everything in the childhood, but he actually did Avidheya. He applied the Sambandha Gyan and properly practiced. And when he got the Darshan and Krishna vanished from his Darshan, what he said, why you cannot become successful? Because apakva kashayan, your heart is apakva, immature, and you have to continue this process till the end of your life. So regular attendance in the classes on the Bhagavatam and rendering service till the end of life. That will be basically our process also. And therefore, Utsaha Nishchaya Dharya. We should be patient and patiently follow the rules, not break the rules. We should patiently wait when we are patiently following. We are not patiently following, but we are impatiently begging. Why I am not becoming successful? So we should first patiently apply these principles and then we can wait, the results will appear. So thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki and the Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Jai Gautama Nandini.